Last evening, anticipating your arrival, I walked around and picked up a few flowers. True feverfew, which is just a little herb, and it's growing wild over here in some pots, and there's a small area where it's gone wild over there. This one is tobacco. I think it's prohibited at the moment. I have a couple that have popped up wild from when I used to grow it here, and I do use this one for grinding up the leaves and using it as a spray insecticide. It may be technically illegal to possess, and so I do not sell it. An iachroma, from what flower is that? From South America. I have an orange one, a blue one, and this one is sort of like magenta, perhaps. These are visited by, in where it comes from, South America, hummingbirds and things. Here, some of the bigger honey eaters, like the wattlebird. Just some nasturtiums there, and a butterfly bush, a buddleia, originally from China. And a couple more things that I'd stuffed down in the water. That the wattlebird, there's a nasturtium, but here is a silky oak flower, and they're quite high up in two trees here. But the wattlebirds are visiting them, and other birds licking up that nectar, and they've knocked the flowers down. This is the Indian or Himalayan horse chestnut, which I mentioned before. It is fast growing and beautiful, and the nuts can be eaten if you know how to treat them, and certainly used as medicine, probably by humans and certainly for horses. A Portuguese angelica, used to hot sun, nothing important there. But here is a fingerleaf maple from China. That one's not common. There are not many of them, I think, adult in this country yet. Very beautiful, long finger-like leaves and a nice weep. Another macadamia, also from New South Wales. I also have the Queensland one here, but I can't recommend it for this area, except perhaps along the coast or a really warm site. This site, when we moved here, was all bare, windswept from 3 or 4 directions, and subject to frost, and the ground was compacted. Now, after 30 or 40 years, the ground has changed. The plants have changed them. The wind has been removed in most places, except from my driveway there. So some things that couldn't live here before can now live here. And also, this shape right here, this planting, is a U-shaped sun trap. So it traps the low light of winter and blocks the winds. And there's a U-shaped sun trap there, and they're used elsewhere, as demonstrated in Permaculture 1 and 2. Here's one I picked out to take to market, excuse me. My wife would say, trying to help me, she would say, well, you're going to market, take anything with a flower on, because she knows people. And people will buy things if they have a flower. Well, many things only flower for a few weeks a year. This one is from the Natal, Southwest Africa. And the only plant in permaculture, I think, from that region that has an edible fruit that people are looking for is the Natal plum. And this is a relative of it, but it's not the same plant. I don't think it has an edible fruit. It does have a nicely scented flower. And it's well armed. It has some double-spined thorns on it. This one was used around native huts and around their villages so that in the evening you could have a wall of thorn around your village or your hut. You bring your goats or whatever else you have, your children, inside that wall to keep hyenas or lions from the things that they would eat. A silky oak. I showed you the flowers a moment ago. Grevillea robusta. It's actually a very large tree, except most of the large ones are gone. Beautiful timber. I think there's a piece of furniture on that shop veranda made of silky oak. There's a bunya pine. I've gone to the trouble of growing quite a few of them. They are not easy. They can take quite a while to come up. And they're prickly and spiny. But they are so old, I think they predate the dinosaurs. And that was dinosaur food. And food here for Aboriginal people. They have a large cone. It takes 3 years to grow. They have large pine nuts inside. But this plant, which is probably 10 to 12 years old, is not going to bear any cones for us, any food for us, for another 20 years, probably. Many people are interested in edible plants, mostly so that they can eat them. And I guess that's fair enough. But you know, there are people that believe that there was some God and he provided all these things for us to use and have dominance over, or dominion. But I'm not sure that's the case. They all have their own lives, and we should be sharing the food with other creatures. This is a coastal guava, like the red cherry guava or strawberry guava, but this one is yellow, slightly larger, nicer taste. I introduced the cherry guava to this region and this one about 30 years ago. Another Illawarra flame tree. Now here's one I probably shouldn't mention the name because I really don't know why it's named the Wonder Tree. Well, that is, I haven't read enough about it. Its genus is Idesia, its species is Polycarpa, and they are male or female. And I did have a pair, luckily, up the hill, one male, one female. And they produced a wondrous amount of fruit. Small red fruits in clusters, and that's, as in many plants, in late summer or autumn. And in this case, the fruits were not taken by birds. They hung on the tree for about a year, clearly distasteful. But the tree was beautiful. It was a wonder to see it in fruit for months. And I'm sure something will eat it. There is a Queensland macadamia. Again, that one comes from coastal sands in northern Queensland, and the Americans took it to Hawaii and bred it around the year 1900, and there's now a worldwide industry in those macadamias. This one, of course, shouldn't grow here or live here. There's a 20-footer over here, and it bears nuts, but it doesn't bear lots of nuts. It's crowded, and it's too far from its home to really be happy, and it doesn't actually have any mates or friends of its kind.